This is the new Tamron 16-30mm F2.8 Di3 VXD G2 lens for both the Nikon Z mount and Sony E mount cameras. So, is this lens the best bang for your buck ultra wide zoom lens on the market right now? Let's find out. Hi guys, and welcome back to the channel. Just a quick thank you to the team at Tamron Australia for sending me this lens out to test and review. But Tamron aren't paying me to do this review. This is just a loan lens. I've got to send it back after the 2 weeks they've given it to me. So any sort of findings or opinions I've got of this lens are all mine. All right, so firstly, let's check out and see what you get in the box. You get your manual, the 16-30mm lens itself, with both your front and rear lens caps, plus a lens hood. It has an external USB-C port that can be used with the Tamron Lens Utility Program and for future firmware updates, along with an FN button so you can assign some different settings from the menu. It doesn't have an external AF on or off switch, but the main thing I did notice, and I was pretty happy when I saw this, it has an internal zoom, which helps the ceiling when out in rougher weather like light rain or snow. It's a full frame or FX lens and weighs in at 450 grams. Has a 67mm filter thread and the aperture range is from f2.8 to f16. Lens construction is 16 elements in 12 groups and it has 9 aperture blades. Minimum focus distance is 19 centimeters at 16mm and 30 centimeters at 30mm. Now at this stage, I only have the price of what it's going to retail here in Australia for, and that is $1,799. So in the US, that price will be different, and best check with your local camera stores for price info. So this lens is actually the second generation to Tamron's very popular 17-28mm f2.8 lens. Only with this lens, they've given us a little bit wider at 16mm and a little bit closer in focal length at 30mm. I remember when the first generation Tamron 17-28mm f2.8 lens first came out for the Sony E mount. Everyone was waiting for this lens with huge anticipation, and Tamron finally delivered because it gave some serious competition to Sony's 16-35mm f2.8 G master lens in terms of image quality and, importantly, price for those on a tighter budget. Tamron have made some significant improvements with this 16-30mm f2.8 G2 lens. So I'm going to take it out into the field and let's just see what it's got. So today I'm testing out this Tamron lens on my Nikon Z7. It's a full frame 45 megapixel camera. Now already I can see, and this is thanks to that VXD focus system in this lens, the focusing between foreground and background objects is lightning fast. Just like the other Tamron VXD lenses I've reviewed in the past on my channel, the focusing is so quick between the foreground and background objects. You know, the bokeh that you can achieve out of this ultra-wide zoom lens, at 16mm at f2.8, let me just put you up some sample shots now. It's pretty incredible for an ultra-wide angle zoom lens. 16mm, and you can get so close at that minimum focus distance of 19 centimeters. So with the announcement of this Tamron 16-30mm f2.8 G2 lens, that rounds out the holy trinity of the f2.8 G2 Tamron lenses. The thing is though, that's only for the Sony E mount. That is the 16-30, the 28-75 and the 70-180. We're still waiting on that 70-180 G2 f2.8 lens to come out for the Nikon Z mount, but I'm sure that will be coming soon. You know, secretly, I'm kind of excited about this lens because I guess that's the landscape photographer in me coming out. When Tamron first told me about this lens, I started thinking instantly about the possibilities it could be used for. Landscape photography is of course the first thing that came to my mind, but then you have things like travel, architecture, weddings, food vloggers, or just vloggers in general for its close-up focusing ability at 16mm and the bokeh you can achieve in the background at f2.8. Astrophotography is another real possibility with this lens, and because of its light weight, you can use it on a gimbal for things like corporate and real estate videos. So it is quite diverse in its uses, and because you've got that f2.8 aperture, it really does open up a greater scope in the types of photography and videography you can do in low light situations. Just like the Tamron 28-75mm f2.8 G2 Z mount I reviewed on my channel, this 16-30mm has some outstanding image quality. Tamron has really done such an amazing job with these G2 lenses. They've up-spec'd the optics along with the focusing system. They're basically two of the most important elements of any lens, really. Now, one thing I did pick up with this lens that you should be made aware of. Now, even though it has an internal zoom, which is fantastic, you'll notice on the lens at the front, the element still moves forward and backwards in the barrel. So if you're a landscaper and you're out in dusty or harsh environments, you may want to invest in a 67mm protective UV filter. Now that'll help protect it from the fine dust particles entering into the lens. It's exactly the same as my older Nikon AFS 16-35mm f4 VR lens, and I've got a protective UV filter on that lens constantly. Well, after using this lens for the last 2 weeks, I can certainly say it's absolutely brilliant, especially for the price that you pay. I mean, the image quality and the focusing speed and focusing in general is just superb out of this lens. And having that f2.8 aperture, especially now that you've got that wider focal length at 16mm and the closer focal length at 30mm, I think this lens is going to be very popular with both landscape and astrophotographers. Well guys, thank you so much for watching. Never stop creating. I'll see you next time.